And it looks like we are live. Sorry, we are running a couple of seconds behind this morning, but we seem to be having a local internet outing. And I don't mean the kind of outing where you get in a car and drive to a nice riverside picnic spot with everything like that. No, this is an outing where nothing works. Anyway, it is Drive Time Radio. It is a Saturday morning. We thank you so much for spending some time with us on this pretty Saturday morning, at least here in Seattle. Matter of fact, pretty in a lot of places, not so pretty in other places. But we this morning are going to have a lot of fun for the next hour or so as we try to get you some information, take you out to this is always one of my favorite shows of the year because I get to spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, as long as I can put my arm around his leg and keep him here. Kirby Arnold, our old friend who used to write for the Everett Herald. Now he writes, he's a big time motorsports writer. He was back then too, but he used to cover baseball and predominantly, but he takes his annual trip to Indianapolis, and we are lucky enough and have been for the past however many years for him to let us in on that trip that he takes. And we will talk to him in just a couple of minutes about the trip, how it's going, the Indianapolis 500, and everything that is going on out there in Indianapolis for America's race. It is really as much fun as you can have. It is one of there's two things I haven't done in sports yet: the Kentucky Derby and the Indianapolis 500. And being as I'm going to be getting to my 70th birthday here in the not too distant future, I'm making the commitment right now that next year, if the Lord's willing and the creek don't rise, and I'm alive to stick around for the whole thing and all the stuff that's going on is going on, next year, I want to try to do both of them. So this way I have them checked off the list. I have it, there and say, okay, I did it. I don't have to worry about it anymore. And who knows, maybe even Kirby and I will be sitting in the stands at Indianapolis coming up next year. And we'll get a chance to, to sit there live and talk about this incredible event. So we'll get to Kirby in just a couple of seconds. Before we do that, we want to give you the winners of the Mudfest competition that we took part in last week. You all remember that we had, the video and everything, and we wanted to make sure that we had all of the winners and the fun of Mudfest 2025 presented here on the show. We showed you the tape last week of all the different vehicles that entered the Northwest Automotive Press Association Mudfest 2025. I think this was the 28th edition of this great event that a bunch of old media hacks get together. We have this association, NWAPA, and we get together and the manufacturers bring down a whole bunch of cars, and we spend 2 days out in Shelton evaluating these cars, driving them around the track, and then doing the course, the off-road course, and we get a chance to evaluate them and let you know what we think are the best of what we see out there. And it was a really nice machinery this year, a lot of fun. What I really thought was unexpected, not just unexpected entrance, but unexpected vehicles, unexpected cars that you looked at and you said, oh, I don't know if this is an off-road vehicle. But when you got in it and you used it, and you got behind that wheel, you really got a sense of what they were all about and how they operated in the wild. And I think the biggest thing was the surprises of what you saw. You saw and felt and drove some really spectacular vehicles. I mean, vehicles that were ready to come off the showroom floor and go up into the woods, into the country, into the rivers, the fording the rivers of America, and have some fun. That's simple. It wasn't a thing where you had to go buy it and then you had to go wait for the parts to come and you had to spend a month putting everything in there. I mean, these vehicles come equipped right off of the showroom floor, ready to get either go on the track or go up into the high country or go up over mountains, over hill, over dale, or wherever you take a vehicle like this. It's really an amazing thing when you think about it, and you've been pushing cars around as long as I have. It used to be a very long time ago, if you wanted to have a vehicle that was capable of going up into the forest or going up into the tops of mountains and snow, you had to go to a Dodge dealer and you had to sit down with their option sheet. You had to know what to look for, and you had to go into the fleet order sheet and get all of the different options that were in there, and outfit your truck just right so that you would have something that would take you where you wanted to go. Now you just walk in, you say, "Give me one of those," and you go walking out with a vehicle that's capable of going way, way up there. And what's even more important and more interesting, I think, is that you can do it electrically. One of the winners this year was a vehicle that is a complete flat out electric vehicle. Now, you may say to yourself, well, Vinny, how could you do that? I mean, there's no charging stations, on the top of, I don't know, name a mountain, Mount Baker. Although I think there is now a charging station up there. Anyway, the landscape for these types of vehicles have gotten better, has improved, and really has, I think really the manufacturers have responded to the call of what people in the Northwest used to look at and say, this is what I want. Well, now the whole country knows about this. So we'll have the winners for you here in just a second. Let me give you some of the video of what you got to see. One of many of our favorites, as a matter of fact, many of our favorites are the the bruisers, and I don't know that there was as big a bruiser as their as the Dodge, or I keep calling them Dodges, the Ram RHO. Just don't know that there was a vehicle that was put out there that was that delivered like the RHO, the Ram, a pickup truck that really gave you everything you wanted in an off-road vehicle. I mean, this thing was a monster. Out at Shelton, out at the Ridge Motorsports Park, that is the vehicle that I think most people were talking about. But to run down the winners of this year, the journalists, of course, crowning the Ram 1500 RHO Crew Cab as the best pickup truck and the most extremely capable vehicle, or the extreme capability vehicle. But it was the overall winner, the 2025 Ram 1500 RHO Crew Cab, is the Northwest Outdoor Activity Vehicle of the Year. That's the top award in this thing. And I can't believe that it wasn't about as unanimous a decision as you could get. Here you see the Hyundai Tucson going through its paces. Here's the Ineos, which was another fan favorite, the Ineos station wagon. But let me give you the rundown of the winners here. Did I say 20? It's 31 years that we've been doing Mudfest. I mean, basically since they started doing SUVs. So the winners The Nawapa Mudfest 2025 categories and winners. The two-row family SUV was, I think, the blastiest vehicle to ride in this competition. Was the uh, was the 2025 Hyundai Ioniq 5 XRT. This was an incredible vehicle. That took the two-row family SUV. It was great in that you could take this thing, take it out on the road, or take it up into the country, and do just about what you wanted. I don't think it met a piece of dirt that it didn't like. The three-row family SUV was the 2025 Jeep Wagoneer Series 2 Overland. I mean, Jeep flat out just it went through everything you wanted to put it through. On luxury SUV category, the 2026 Genesis GV70 3.5T Sports Prestige. That was the winner of that particular category. As we said, the pickup truck, the 2025 Ram 1500 RHO Crew Cab 4x4. This is a 540 horsepower pickup truck out of a six-cylinder engine, kids. Not this is the Ioniq, but that six-cylinder engine. Ram has perfected this thing. I mean, they have gotten every drop of horsepower, every drop of torque, every drop of anything that they could get out of this thing. They've gotten out of it. It's a pleasure to drive, a blast to take onto concrete or through mud. This is the Subaru Forester that took the best value Northwest Outdoor Activity Vehicle for 2025, the Forester Touring Hybrid. And once again, Subaru comes through with uh, a vehicle that will do just about anything you need it to do uh, in any kind of Northwest road condition. Here it is. There it goes. It's ready to go. Simple for you. And as we said before, the Northwest Outdoor Activity Vehicle of the Year, the 2025 Ram 1500 RHO Crew Cab 4x4. We really appreciate all the manufacturers that took part in this competition, all of the NWAPA members that took part in the competition, that spent 2 days of their lives putting these different vehicles through all of these different tests to see if these cars really live up to their to what the manufacturers say that they do. Will they do what they say they will do? Here we see the Genesis, and this is another vehicle that, don't let its good looks fool you. It's a vehicle that really, and here is the perennial favorite. I mean, I don't know how many people have had one of these, but they love the Forerunner. Toyota Forerunner is a spectacular vehicle. So, and another one that, while it didn't take home any of the top prizes, it was a vehicle that you got in that thing, you drove it for a while, and you said Toyota has another winner here. So, great vehicle is the Jeep Wagoneer. So, I don't want to spend too much of our time because we have Kirby in Indianapolis. I want to get to him. But if you get a chance, this is the other interesting vehicle. I love this vehicle. It is the Ineos Grenadier. Friends of mine took this vehicle up the Alcan Highway all the way up into Alaska. And this little pickup truck performed. It is a great little vehicle that's BMW powered and did the trick for its entry, did the trick off road, did the trick on road, was pleasurable to drive. Certainly a great vehicle, and a vehicle that I think a lot of people are going to enjoy. Once again, the winners will be on the NWAPA website. You can also go to our Drive Time Facebook page and find out all of the information that you will need to. This was one more on a Lexus. this Lexus. I mean, if you want to go in luxury, this was a luxurious vehicle. I mean, this thing was spectacular. But that's all right. So that's pretty much the wrapping up of the Mudfest. And as I said, you'll be able to find out more information about these vehicles on our website. And, just go to our Facebook page. We'll have everything set up there so that you can, uh, figure out what you want to do there and go buy two of them. You got to keep the automotive business going right now. Things are in not good shape in the automotive business. So go, but if you can buy 2 cars, 3 cars, 4 cars, you got some friends out there that you want to make really good friends with, buy them a car too. That's how you do it. All right, get a chance now to bring in our good friend. Never a time when I am not happy to see my good friend Kirby, who let's face it, here's a guy that we spent hours together sitting in the press box at Safeco Field. You don't mind if I still call it Safeco, do you, Kirby Arnold?
If you don't mind it, I still call it Safeco because that's what I do every time.
Then we're on the same page, pal. Right. How are you, Kirby?
I'm very good, Vinnie, although what I just listened and watched from you, I don't have enough space for all the cars I've got. Now you've got me wanting to have a couple more here. So those trucks look pretty good.
As 2 ex-wives have told me, you can never have enough cars. You can't have enough ex-wives.
Oh, okay.
But you can never have enough. It can't be done.
Okay.
How are you, pal? Everything good?
I'm living the dream, Vinnie.
Once again, man, this is how many Indianapolis is this for you?
I was trying to count this. My first one was 1974. I took a few years off because I was living in where I grew up in Missouri. So in the mid 80s, I moved to Seattle. I missed a few years, and then I picked it back up around in the early 2000s. So, this is in the 30 something range, I think, Indy 500 that I've seen. So, yeah.
Is it still enjoyable? Has it turned into any kind of chore yet? Or is it still one of those things where you go and you just see something new and find something that you never saw before, or you realize something that you never realized before walking around the grounds?
The cool thing about this place is when you get here, you see a lot of the things that bring you back to 1974, yet the modern age of the sport, obviously, these guys are driving airplanes with wheels, essentially. Yeah. So it's interesting because my first year here, 1974, the night before the race, I'd always heard about this place, and I decided I'm just going to go. I was a young guy living in Missouri. I drove over here the day before the race. The night before the race, I walk over to Georgetown Road, which is a long road that goes along the outside of the front straightaway, the grandstands here. And I sat down on a curb in front of an old gray house back then. And my eyes must have been as big around as silver dollars. And an older guy back then, he was probably in his 50s, but older guy sat down next to me, and he said, "It's your first time, isn't it?" And I said, "Yes, it is my first time. This is incredible." And so he went on to explain to me what Indy meant, how that had been his 30th or so. And just last year, I came back. So that was 1974, 2024, 50 years. And I had my grandson, at that time, 11-year-old grandson with me. And we walked out and we sat on the curb. The old gray house is still there. We sat on the curb the afternoon before the race, and I just sat there and I tried to explain to him what Indy means and how, even though they're all going a lot faster, the cars don't look like they did 50 years ago, but still it's the same 2.5 miles, the history that this is all about, the things that have happened here are something to be cherished. And I guess maybe that's what I'm here for now, is to hopefully pass it on to others. So that's what I do. So my grandson goes with me every year now. This is the fourth year, and he's out getting autographs and everything. So, yeah, it's a blast. So, yeah, I always talk about Indy. It happens once a year. It's like Christmas. You can't wait to get here. And then it's a week or 2 weeks or whatever of, a lot of hard work. You know what it's like to work in baseball. You can work hard and a lot of walking around here, and you're tired by the end of it. So you can't wait to get here. And by the time it's over, sometimes you can't wait to leave. But it doesn't take long before you wish you could come back again. So.
How have the crowds changed? Not the fans, but the people covering the sport. Because like everything else, I mean, you go in a press box now, and it's influencers, and it's nowadays any guy with a woman with a camera or a telephone is in the media business.
Right.
Is there still? But I always remember. Now, I haven't been to Indianapolis, but I always had an interest in racing drivers and racing people because they always seem to be a part of covering the sport almost unto their own.
Right.
And has that whole scene changed?
I think it in a lot of ways it has, and in some ways it hasn't. I mean, the media landscape has changed. Newspapers have really changed. So when I first started coming here and covering this place in the mid 70s, I mean, Jim Murray was here. Some of the great sports writers, Thomas Boswell, I think, was here, even though he's a baseball guy. But some of the great sports writers and the great newspapers around the country, they were all here. Now, I honestly don't know. I haven't looked around the media center to see whose name tag is there, but it's changed. You're right. There's a lot of broadcasts. There's a lot of podcasters. There's a lot of people with websites, that sort of thing. So it has changed a lot, and influencers too.
See,
which I don't know that that's bad. It's just the way things are now.
Yeah, it's just. Well, I do take a little bit of exception with the influencer thing because
Right.
I always have read this job in many ways, not completely, that you're not supposed to be an influencer. You're supposed to report what happens, and you're supposed to let people come to their own kind of decision of what they think is right. And if you're a good writer, a good reporter, you get the story, that's what will influence them. But it now seems that the media guy is become the star of the show. Sometimes I feel like our generation started that a little bit with radio and sports talk and all of that.
Right. No, I agree. It is all changed. I mean, even as newspaper reporters, I remember covering the Mariners back in 2000, 2001. You know what coverage was like back then, and KJR and the sports talk shows, and I was working for the Everett Herald, which is not the Seattle Times or the PI, but I was even getting requests to go on the air with radio or TV from Boston or Tokyo with Ichiro being there. And, I always joke that I have a face for radio and a voice for newspapers. And all I wanted to do was sit there and pound out, hopefully, a good readable story. And so the thought of having a microphone in front of my face scared me to death, basically. So I liked, as my style was, I'd be in the clubhouse, I just kind of lay back and keep my eyes open. A lot of times I'm not out there trying to ask a question, or I'm observing in a lot of ways. And then I can go in and ask the questions based on what I see. And I learned that from some really good reporters. Larry LaRue, the great writer with the Tacoma News Tribune, was one of my best friends. And we talked a lot about Larry Henry of the Herald, who, he and I traveled thousands of miles together, covering anything from Husky football to Sonics in the 96 finals to Mariners in 95 and 97 and 2000 and 2001. And and Husky Rose Bowls and that sort of thing. And the old crusty newspaper guy was kind of the thing. And now it's, you see so many people carrying not only a tape recorder, but a camera with them.
Yeah.
So they're doing their podcasts and blogs.
You got to put your mug out there. And like you said before, I'm in that same thing.
Yeah. Or as I heard, it's your brand that you are promoting. So, right. So,
time.
So, but that's not, it's probably, it's not just motorsports, it's probably just about everything.
I,
But you do see it here compared to what it
yeah.
was back in the 70s when I started all of this.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the race, about the cars, about the drivers, and what I mean. My listeners, I've got more people to ask me over the last 2 days. What about this freaking wiener race?
Oh my gosh, it's funny because I was at the track on Thursday and took a little bus tour of the track and everything, and all the wieners were out there parked inside the wall in turn 4, and the Oscar Minor wieners, I guess there's 6 of them, and all 6 of them were here, and they all had a specific name. One of them was the Seattle Dog, who I think finished 4th out of 6. But
Well, with cream cheese on it, you probably would finish 4th out of 6.
Right. Mustard and relish and maybe some onions for me, but that's another thing. But then no ketchup. But
Right.
anyway,
Right.
But I was here. I didn't go out and watch the wiener race, so I was doing other things here yesterday. So
well, you're working.
But
you're working.
Yeah.
But,
it was a good promotion, and it got a lot of eyeballs. You noticed I got texts from friends of mine who saw something online about the wiener race at the Speedway, and the question was, is this for real? I said, yeah, it's for real. Here they are. So,
hey, in 1960, in 1969, it was Andy Granatelli handing out STP stickers. Now
right.
you go and you get a wiener.
That's right. That's right.
Same thing, right?
Yeah. Promoting the brand, right?
Promoting the brand, and racing does that probably as good, if not better, than any other sport. I mean, the drivers are trained, the personnel are trained.
Exactly. And the one thing that I've noticed, you know what it's like covering baseball. Baseball was the joy of my life, and being able to be in the clubhouse, and you got 25 different guys and a set of coaches, and they've all got different personalities. Some of them enjoy seeing you walk in. Some of them would rather they never see you again. That's just the way it is. And so you learn how to deal with guys, and sometimes a baseball clubhouse could be difficult. Okay. Yeah. The one thing that when I started, especially getting pretty close, covering IndyCar closely, especially 10, 15 years ago when I kind of got back into it after my baseball days, it really occurred to me how accommodating almost everyone is in this sport. And just like the other night, we flew in on Wednesday. My grandson and I, we went down to the little main street in Speedway, Indiana here. There's a go-kart track, which is attached to a restaurant. So we thought, let's go in and see if maybe he can race a go-kart later tonight. And we get in line behind this short guy at the counter, and the guy turns around. It's Kyle Larson. And he was paying for some go-kart races for him and his family. And he turns around, and he talks to us, he stops for some pictures, and then we go next door to the restaurants to, get a table, and the way.
I think we might have been frozen up with Kirby here a minute, so we'll just sit that out. But one of the things.
Anyway. So she asked, "Are you familiar with Marcus Ericsson?" Yeah, and and see, he's right around the corner. Go say hi to him. Went over and said hi to him, signed some autographs, all that. Took pictures. Later on, we go back to the go-kart track. In walks Ryan Hunter-Ray with his family again. So in less than an hour, we met 2 former winners of the Indy 500 and one of the greatest race car drivers there is today in Kyle Larson. And that's kind of the way it is around here. And they're all just very happy, accommodating. They talk to the kids, especially. So
they
it's
don't
a cool
seem
place.
to be. I mean, and again, comparing what we know, baseball and racing, baseball always seemed to try to segregate the families and personnel and all that kind of from the reporters.
Right.
All of the racing that I ever remember, and from the days of who was the kid, Casey Kane from down in Puyallup.
Oh, right. Uh-huh.
I mean, it's like you knew his family.
Right.
His mom was standing there talking to you, chatting Casey up like anybody.
Yep.
It was just because they realized I think that they had not just that it was a growing sport, that no matter how the sport was developing, they weren't the top dog. So they had to work harder
Right.
to get into the public's awareness, to stay at top of mind with the public, and they would get people who were okay, who signed up for that, who said,
Right.
"That's all right. I don't mind that if
Right.
that's what it takes."
And you know, and this sport especially is such a sponsorship driven game that they know they need to be out there and be personable and be a good representative for the products that they represent. So yeah, you talk about Casey Kane. To me, back in the 70s when I was covering short track stock car racing in Missouri, it was Judy Wallace who was the mother of Rusty Wallace, and Rusty's dad, Russ Wallace, and then now, you know, and then Kenny Wallace and Mike Wallace. There were three Wallace brothers, and if I wanted to get any information, I called Judy. Judy knew everything that was going on. She took care of those boys. And being in Springfield, Missouri, it was the same with Payne Stewart, the golfer. Payne grew up in Springfield. Knew Payne a little bit, but not much. But when he went off to the PGA Tour, I remember his mom was the one who could tell me what he was doing and how he was really doing. So, yeah.
It's really it's so different from covering that demand. I always call them, a long time ago I worked in the soda business, and you had the demand items, Coke and Pepsi,
Right.
and you had to really go work to find the information out, to find the stuff out about those products. But
Yep.
if you were looking for the Canada Dry guy or the Shasta guy, he'd pull up at your house at 4:00 in the morning with a
Right. Yeah.
soda and set it on your. So because
Yep.
he needed you to
Yep.
get on his side, so
Yep.
he sold product. He would push
Yep.
product, and the
Exactly.
same thing with racing. They
Right.
needed people to recognize their product.
Right.
What do we see as far as cars this year? First of all, any big change? I know Carb Day had some problems with a few cars.
Yeah, there were a few to just keep an eye open on. You know, Graham Rahal had an engine problem. That's a Honda team. Takuma Sato, who's starting on the front row and has won the race twice, he had some sort of a mechanical issue. I heard that it was like a drive shaft or something, but I was just down in the garage area an hour or so ago, and they were still working on that car and had just finished buttoning up. They had another issue. Ryan Hunter-Ray, who drives for a Chevy team, Brian Reinbold, he had a fire late in the session yesterday, and it basically ruined the car, his qualified car. So what I was told by one of the team members was that it compromised the carbon fiber tub, the main structure of the car, and they couldn't race it. So they drug out a backup car. So they had to basically get it race ready, and that there were mechanics that worked all through the night last night. And then IndyCar gave him a special 15-minute session this morning on track where he could just start it on pit road, drive it around the track just on a couple of install laps just to make sure systems were okay and all of that. I talked to Don Cusick, who's one of the owners of that team, and he told me that they really are thinking that backup car feels a lot better than the primary car has for the week and a half that they've been running. So who knows? We'll see. But they don't have any laps with that car, so you never know what develops here when they get going tomorrow.
Kirby, what's it like? I'm sure you've done this. Well, I shouldn't say that because we learned never to suppose, never to assume. But day before the big race, 4:00 in the morning, 5:00, 3:00 in the morning. What's it like walking around the pits? What's it like walking around the?
That's really interesting question. It's kind of surreal because I remember in 1974 when I was out here sitting on the curb, maybe it was 10, 11 o'clock at night. People, especially if the weather's nice, people are partying, having a good time. The campgrounds are full. The Speedway is in a residential neighborhood, kind of a cool old little neighborhood, and people park cars in their yards and they party, they barbecue, and they stay up all night, and it's really just a cool scene. So there's that side of it. It's very active outside the track. inside the track, it's eerily quiet and it's still, and it's just, and in a few hours, when daylight comes, when the race starts, it's completely opposite. The track is just a beehive of activity and everything, and outside of it, it's just calm and serene. So it's amazing how things transform, because the night before the race, you got tens of thousands of people outside having a good time. It's totally quiet in the track. And then the next afternoon, there's 350,000 people, like there will be here tomorrow, inside having a great time, and the race is going on. And yeah, it's quite a scene.
Are there people? This will probably sound like a stupid question, but we always have this illusion or this thought that there's a real brotherhood, uh, brother sisterhood, but a camaraderie among race car people, different maybe than in any other sport.
Yeah,
And does that
I
still
agree.
exist, or is it like that, or is that kind of
I
a
think
tale
so.
made
Yeah,
up?
because we were walking around this morning. They got autograph sessions with the current drivers. They had autograph sessions with former Indy 500 drivers, and you're standing in line with people, and where are you from? What got you into it? When was your first race? And we all have that story, just like I got my story from 1974. Other people have their stories, and they come back. This is an annual thing. Like I said, it's kind of like Christmas. This is the Christmas for the motorsports set, the Indy
Yeah.
500 crowd, and it's unlike anything else in the world, basically. And people, they can't, once it's over, they can't wait to do it again the next year. And it's a tradition. One guy I talked to, he has taken over his dad's seats, and his dad started coming here in 1941. He's sitting in the same seats that his dad sat in 1941.
Wow.
That's what Indy means. There's a phrase, what does Indy mean? And that's just one of the thousands and thousands of stories. So
And even though even though it's highly competitive, maybe the most competitive when it comes to, maybe besides golf, as a a, a sport where everybody's out to beat the crap out of everybody. But yet there seems among like you could have two teams. Some guy needs a screw for his Borg Warner carburetor or something like that. Many sports, a guy would never go over and give his competition something to help him. But it seems to me in racing, for most part, maybe this has changed over the years with the money, but it always seemed that one crew, one pit guy, one somebody could go over to another person at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, "Hey, I need a certain screw that goes to the left instead of the right, or the right instead of the left." And the guy said, "Oh, yeah, I got one of those over here. Here."
yeah, I don't know how much that goes on, to tell you the truth now, because there's so much money in it, and there's so much that teams don't want some other team to see.
Right.
So I don't know, but I know in times of issues, car has issues or a crash or whatever, there is a camaraderie among them all. I know a week or so ago, Colton Herta hit the wall, got upside down, pretty much destroyed the car in qualifying. And Andretti has 5 different teams within the Andretti organization racing here, and I mean, it was all hands on deck among all those Andretti people to get that car back together so he could get back on the track. And he actually got back on the track later in the day. So yeah, that happens. You see, if you're around here long enough, you see some of the same mechanics and engineers that was with one team or with another team now. So it's kind of like baseball. It is a fraternity.
Yeah, I mean, these people are racing. They know each other since they're kids. Their fathers raced, as you were talking about before. Um, Someday we'll probably see Danica Patrick's daughter out there. I don't even know if she has a daughter, but
I
her
don't
kid
think
out
so.
there racing. Who knows? What you'll see in the future. But it is a camaraderie. What are we looking for as far as this race? Are we looking? Weather seems to be pretty
I think it'll
decent.
be okay. It's actually been pretty cool here for Indiana standards at this stage. I mean, it was cold this morning when we were out, and I think it's going to be in the high 60s, maybe 70 tomorrow. Overcast, which is great. The cooler it is, the better these
Right.
cars are run, and the air is denser when it's cooler, so maybe the cars will handle better. Should be a fast race. I hope it's a safe race. They've had several crashes this year in practice for various reasons, but people ask, who do you think is going to win? It could be one of 7 or 8 different cars that could win. I mean, the favorite I would think would be an Alex Palou, who has won pretty much everything this year in IndyCar, but he's never won an oval track race. He's been in contention the past 2 years at Indy in leading the race, and he's always had something happen to him. So, Indy does kind of, Lady Luck does play a big part in this race too. So you just never know. And it's going to come down to the last 10 laps of the race, like it has. I mean, the last 2 years, it's come down to the very last lap of the race, the last 2 turns of the last lap of the race. So you want to keep watching till the very end.
Yeah, I mean, you have that unpredictability if you just don't, a screw or
Right.
something fails, something is a micro inch off of something, and
Right.
it change the whole complexion in time that you don't have time to react to. You're just sitting there going, "Whoa, that's it. That's all."
Yeah, things happen so fast at the speeds they're going here. Exactly.
Does the person that wound up taking the final practice, the top spot in that final practice, is that any kind of predictor of?
Well, yeah, it's interesting. Yesterday was the final practice, and it could be a good indication because Joseph Newgarden had the fastest speed yesterday. Joseph Newgarden with Team Penske has been involved in a pretty big controversy this month when it was discovered that 2 of the Penske's 3 cars had a modified part that is not allowed to be modified.
Did he not return the charge on time or something?
Yeah,
what happened?
It was the rear attenuator, and then they had discovered that, and that's a spec part that's not allowed to be changed in any way, shape, or form, and they had done something to it just to kind of smooth a couple of rough edges, to put it, basically. And even the most minuscule little aerodynamic tweak can make a difference in this sport. Some people say they wouldn't make a difference at all, but still, a rule is a rule. You can't change that part of the car. They were caught doing it. So now Newgarden, who's going for his 3rd straight Indy 500 victory, which has never been done here, is starting 32nd. He was moved to the very back, and Will Power, who has won the race for Team Penske, he'll start in the back row as well. So can those guys climb all the way back from the last row? We'll see. But Newgarden had the fastest speed in practice yesterday, and so he'll be able to move through traffic.
That's got to be a pretty formidable task, I would think, to be all the way in the back and make your way all the way up through over 500 miles to get to the to one of the top 10 cars. Never mind working your way all the way up to the winner. It would seem to me that that's almost an impossibility.
Yeah, but Penske is really strong, and they've been really good here. And I can see him moving up fairly quickly in the race. It's definitely Newgarden and Will Power are 2 guys to keep a really close eye on how they do. But the bottom line is, when you get into the last 20 laps of the race, you want to be in that lead 4 or 5 cars, and then when you get in the last few laps of the race, you really want to be in the first couple of cars, because it's hard for cars to pass each other here if you're deep in the pack. Right. And when you have a far superior car like Penske will be over some of these guys, I think he'll move up relatively quickly from 32nd and 33rd, up into that upper half of the pack toward the top 10 and everything. And then we'll see what happens from there. It depends, a lot of times, how many yellow flags will there be? What will their pit work be like? I would assume Team Penske's pit work will be pretty much perfect. So worth watching, that's for sure.
Has there been any, the automotive business, not the racing part of the business, but just the automotive business in general is in such a flux right now
Mm-hmm.
with tariffs and this and that and electrics and everything. Does any of that affect the race at all? Do people talk about that in the pits or anywhere? Or is it just something that sits over there and maybe at dinner
I
everybody's
haven't.
talking about it or something like that?
Yeah, I really haven't heard much of anything about it. The cars in this race, this will be the first Indy 500 where the cars have a hybrid element to them. So there's a hybrid package, and that'll help them. They can generate a little bit more power, and when they use it, and there, if you watch the TV broadcast, there will be a little symbol on the screen that will show you how much hybrid power they have and when they're using it, or how much regeneration they will have as the race goes on. And so it will give them a little bit of horsepower as they go on. And so that's another element to the whole thing. It's interesting. We mentioned the electric thing. I wrote a story for Autoblog. It's probably 3 years ago. Will there ever be an all electric Indy 500? And team
Slot
owners I
call.
talked to, yeah, team owners I talked to said, probably. We're actually one group. Michael Shank with Meyer Shank Racing told me he's got his crew's training to deal with the electric situation from a safety standpoint and everything. They were just learning the basics of it all, just so they will be ready if that time ever comes. I don't think it'll be in our lifetimes, maybe, but you never know. Because there's more and more electric cars on the road these days. But Indy is it's not just a visual, it's an audible thing. The sound of this place is unlike anything you hear anywhere. And the sound of a car at full song going down the straightaway with the sound of that engine echoing off the big grandstands is unlike anything you hear. So I remember I asked Mike Hall, who's the president of Chip Ganassi Racing, who thinks someday there will be electric cars at Indy. And I asked him, what about the sound? And he said, here's the deal. The sound at this place is generational. The sound we hear now is different than the sound we heard in the 1980s, which is different than the sound we heard in the 60s and 70s, which is different than the 50s. So it all depends on what, your generation is accustomed to. So who's to say in 30, 40 years from now that generation is accustomed, that generation thinks an internal combustion engine sounds weird.
Right. I mean,
You
I
never
don't
know.
know.
So that's part of the
The
excitement.
Oppenhausers and and those strange, just the way the exhaust was set up on those things and how different they sounded. Within a 10-year period from 62 to 65, 66.
Right.
There was
Right.
it was so different.
The sport has always evolved. It's probably evolved less in the last 15 years or so, because they're basically driving a spec car. Everybody has the exact same chassis, Dallara chassis. It really, outside of some aero components, really hasn't changed since 2012, I believe. And so unlike before, in years past, when Indy was a real developmental ground for people who could bring crazy designs. I talked to Pancho Carter earlier today, and he was talking about how in 1974, his first year here, the car he drove was built in a garage about 3 blocks away from the speedway. And today they're all Dallara chassis, which are built in a factory just down the street here. All the cars are the same. And but it's kind of necessary. The sport is like, the competition is better now than there ever has been in this sport. Like I said, there's last lap passes for the victory. There's last corner passes for the victory in the Indy 500. Back in the 60s and 70s, there were maybe 10 cars that would finish the race, and only 1 or 2 cars on the lead lap at the end. I wrote a story about the Wood brothers in the 1965 Indy 500, the Wood brothers, the stock car team, came and pitted for them. But Jim Clark won that race by just about 2 minutes over Parnelli Jones. A 2-minute victory. Here, a 2-second victory is probably a big gap. So cars run in packs, and they stay with each other for the whole 500 miles.
If you could go back to something, if you could change one thing and say, you know what, I'd like to see this come back and be installed as a regular part of race day. Is there anything you think of that you'd like to see come back?
Well, there's the old school in me that remembers what this place was like. And number one, Jim Neighbors, if he could come back and be alive again and sing Back Home Again in Indiana, that would just be awesome.
They don't play his a recording of that, huh?
No, they have. They have a great guy, Jim Corneliuson, who is the anthem singer for the Chicago Blackhawks. If you know that voice, if you're in sports, you probably remember that voice. He does Back Home Again in Indiana, and he's amazing. So, again, everything evolves, right? So,
but there was something about Gomer Pyle, man.
Something about Jim Neighbors. You just, But and there's the good thing about Indy is the pre-race ceremonies are the same now as they were when I started going 51 years ago now. And, the place is just as alive and electric as anything can be in that last hour before the race. And then they play taps. And the bugler gets up high on the stand and he plays taps. And 350,000 people, it is absolutely as quiet as can be. And all you hear is the bugler playing taps. And it's just kind of chilling to be here for something like that. And so don't ever change those kinds of things. A lot of people would like to see, more variety in the field as far as the cars and the engines and things like that. Right now it's a Chevrolet Honda thing. Yeah. Either some of the teams are Chevy or the others are Honda. The cars are all the same. But again, the competition is better than it's ever been. So they've got a good formula. I guess we all could go to look at any sport and wish it was the way it was 20 years ago. I wish the Mariners were back to the way they were in 2001, right?
Yeah. You, me, and about.
And who knows? Who knows where they're headed this year? We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I like to think that a little bit of Lou rubbed off on Danny. And
you know what? It's getting away from motorsports here, but I've watched several games. I haven't been to the ballpark yet this year, but I've watched almost every game on TV, and I absolutely love what Danny did for the team when he was a player, what he did when he was a broadcaster, and now as a manager. And I'm seeing a lot of that. And what I'm also seeing with Edgar being involved, I'm seeing at bats by these hitters take on almost an Edgar-like personality. Maybe I'm biased and I'm just forcing on myself to look for that, but I'm seeing hitters who were not patient at the plate, all of a sudden who are working a good ball strike count, who are finding themselves in a good count to hit a good pitch and drive a good pitch and not try to hit a home run with every swing. I'm seeing a lot of Edgar in what I'm seeing with the approach at the plate. So, and that just warms my heart to see that,
Yeah.
And I don't think it was really any accident. And I talked to a couple of former players about this when I was down at spring training. I don't think it was any accident that the team offensively really surged last September after Edgar got in there. He simplified things. I think a lot of guys had, I don't know whether there's too many numbers or too many theories or thoughts or whatever that, you're supposed to do this and this pitch because the numbers say you should be doing this at this launch angle or looking for this pitch and this time and the at bat.
He's a simple guy. I mean, we know
2 minutes. Yeah, basically Edgar. And I remember having a lot of talks with him over the years when he was playing. What do you do when you're scuffling, which didn't happen a ton with Edgar? He says, I just go, I'm thinking maybe he's going to tell me he goes back to the cage and he works on this, he does that, he works his grip or something in his stance. No, he just goes back to hitting the ball up the middle, the opposite way. And he said the rest of it will fall in place. And that's what I'm seeing out of this team now. So hopefully they can keep it up. We'll see. I haven't watched. I honestly have not watched much of the past week's game. So I know they did they hold on and beat Houston last night? I can't remember. But
boy, I started watching the Mets game because the Mets went over into
Yeah.
extra innings, so I kind of switched over and watched.
I know Cal Raleigh hit a home run and broke a 3-3 tie, and then
it was like a
it's
huge
getting late out here. But I like the approach that I see. They're getting guys on base. Dan is running. He's moving
he's putting
guys
the
on the
game in
base.
motion.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
exactly what Lou did, and that's what works at Safeco Field, right? So
Right.
T-Mobile Park,
It's
whatever
not
you
a
want to call
ballpark that you're going to hit 1,000 home runs. That's why
Right.
Junior couldn't wait to get out of there.
it. Right. Right.
Because it wasn't his type. As beautiful as a ballpark it wasn't his type of ballpark.
Right. Right.
And
So, yeah, pitching, defense, and a good, athletic offense. I remember talking to Lou after the 99 season. Okay. They played half of that year in the Kingdom, half the year at Safeco
that was a
Field.
tough
And
year for
talking
them.
so as you're building this team, what do you need? He says, we need athleticism. And he knew he was losing Junior at that point. And they bring in Mike Cameron, who's athletic. Gosh, who else did they bring in? They had like Carlos Guillen and guys like that who were a little bit more athletic, so and they could move runners. They got guys who could handle the bat like a Mark McLemore, like Edgar Van Wilson. And they could, if they got a runner on first base with less than 2 outs, more times than not, it seemed that person was in scoring position because guys were not selfish. They would hit the ball the opposite way to move the runner into scoring position. And they scored a lot of runs, and they won a lot of games that way.
And getting Booney back was another piece of it, I think, because he was say what you want. He was an athletic guy. He knew, he had his things, but but
yeah,
he was
an athletic guy. He played a good second base, and you talk about handling a bat. John Olerud at first base. My gosh,
none better.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, it was
fun days, weren't they?
And they got some, they went out and they got some pitching that year too. Aaron Seeley was a big, huge acquisition for them that year. People who also knew how to chuck the ball. They had to get some chuckers.
But you know what? If you think about the starting rotation in 2000, 2001, if you ask anybody but the most diehard Mariners fan, I don't know if people could really name all those guys. I'm not sure I can remember them all. There were Freddie Garcia, Jamie Moyer, Seeley was there, Paul Abbott, John Halama.
The mystery
remember
man.
him? Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I know I'm missing some guys, but
there's some. Somebody.
We're not talking like a whole group of perennial all-stars. I mean, this group that they got now is really solid once they all get healthy. So, but what the Mariners did? They get a lead, and if they get through 6 innings with a lead, they had that bullpen that would absolutely lock them down 7th, 8th, and 9th inning with Nelly, Jeff Nelson, Arthur Rhodes.
Yep. Arthur Rhodes warming up Arthur Rhodes.
But that's not the Indy 500. But yeah,
exactly.
That's what I'll get to next when I get back home.
Hey, it's good to catch up with you, Kirby. So good to hear your voice and to see you. We got to go hit a game sometime, man. We got to go see if hopefully you'll let us come up and sit in the press box.
Well, we'll see. The press box isn't where the press box was anymore, so
it's a phone booth.
yeah, that's okay.
They took all those old phone booths and they welded them together, man.
Yeah.
Who wins tomorrow? Who do we see as the
oh boy?
Well,
golly, I easily could say Takuma Sato. He's starting in the middle of the front row. He's won this race twice. He drives for the Ray Hall team. They've had their issues this year, including a problem in practice yesterday, but he knows how to be up front and when it counts. Pato O'Ward, who drives for Team McLaren, he's been right in the thick of it the past 2 years. Last year, Newgarden passed him on the third turn of the last lap to beat him. The year before, he was contending, for the lead in the last few laps and made a move that turned out crashing, in turn 3. So he's due. Alex Palou with Ganassi can win this thing. Yeah, there's probably a half a dozen guys that I'm looking at that can do it. But I'd say, yeah, Sato, Palou, and Pato Award. Those would be my 3. And then, Joseph Newgarden or Will Power, any of the Penske guys could come up from the back there.
That'd be a hell of a story. I mean, if one of those guys win,
it would be.
That's a story. I mean, not that any of the other guys winning wouldn't be, but to have that kind of problem, be all the way back, you're starting from as deep as back as you can get, and all of a sudden you win. That's an extra $25,000 in the bonus check, man.
Yeah, I get. Well, if he does, if Newgarden does it, it'll be something that's never been done in the history of this place in 109 years. That's 3 times in a row. So
yeah, that'd be unbelievable. One more quick thing. Nice touch by the Speedway to have Casey Irsay Foyt out there as the honorary starter. Jim Irsay's daughter, who Jim Irsay, of course, the owner of the Colts, who passed away 4 days ago.
Yeah, Wednesday, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a huge story here in Indianapolis, and he was so well liked. And the Colts are a big deal back here, and right now the Pacers too. So that was a big story.
Did you see the Reggie Miller incident the other night?
No, I haven't. No.
I guess the end of the game, Knicks are ahead by, I want to say, 2 points. And one of the players, I forget who, because I don't follow the NBA that much anymore since the Sonics took off. One of the Indianapolis players, one of the Indiana Pacers, does the Reggie Miller number to the Knicks.
Oh, that's right. I remember that. I remember they asked the coach, and he said, "Hey, he can do whatever he wants if he can, make that shot like that." So, yeah.
Really? Rick Carlisle, I guess. From
right.
Guy that we know here in Seattle a little bit. And I guess they go on to win the game, and now everybody says, well, the momentum is now switched.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
So, yeah.
Well, listen, pal, I'll see you when you get back. It's, I'm still waiting for my ride. And you got to take me out.
Okay.
The Dick's is opening up there in Everett.
That's right.
So I'm buying lunch.
There's a Dick's in Edmonds that I go to way too often.
I live around the corner from that place.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do it.
Walking distance, man. So I'm buying the burgers if you're bringing this. I'm not afraid to ride in this. I don't know. I may not agree with him, but I'm not afraid to ride in the truck.
You know what? I was wondering. I spent the winter in Arizona, so the Cybertruck stayed in the garage all winter. And when we got back, I remember my wife and I talking, what's the reception going to be? Because, but I had one guy, and it was at Dick's in Edmonds, gave me a thumbs down, and that was it. So last summer, right after I got the Cybertruck, I got several middle fingers.
Yeah.
But, so it's an interesting social experiment. Let's put it that way. I'm intrigued by people's attitude toward an object like that, because it was funny because I spend the winter in Arizona, play golf with a lot of old guys. Some of them are very MAGA, and they're good buddies and all that. And when they heard that I was buying a Cybertruck, they were giving me grief like crazy. Like, how long is your extension cord going to have to be? You're going to get out on the road, and then it's going to be no electricity left, and you're going to have it towed home, and this and that. And don't you realize they don't do well in cold weather? Or I heard the bumper fell off on one of them. It's just one thing after another. Now it's like 180 degrees. It's like these guys think it's the greatest thing in the world.
They all want one.
Elon wound up on kind of on their side, and then I hear that it's like a target of the liberals. So I'm neither nor.
That was some woman the other day.
I just think it's a cool vehicle. It's a really good vehicle, and it's the most advanced thing I've ever driven.
And your
And
bumper hasn't fallen off, right? Just for the record.
hasn't fallen off. Hasn't
All
fallen
right.
off. Haven't run out of electricity. I don't need an extra long extension cord. It
That's
is
good.
fast as could be. It handles like a sports car. What else? It drives itself. So
You know, there's
it's
times that
it's
I need something like that.
it's I forget what the numbers are, but it's way safer self-driving than it is if you were driving yourself, as far as the accident statistics are.
You know, back
So
back in the in another part of my life when I drove a tow truck, actually,
mhm.
we drive these old, C10 pickups. We'd make them into tow trucks and go chase accidents. And each guy that had a tow truck used to have a song title on the back above the
Yeah,
rear window, like
yeah,
"If Only You Believe" and "Miracles" and this. And every time I see a Cybertruck, I always think of that. I think it's the old Jefferson Airplane album, "Bless Its Pointed Little Head."
yep, yeah. It's amazing. I'll give you one example: the self-driving feature, because I'm an old school guy. I mean, I have carbureted cars and old trucks and stuff like that. So I am probably the last guy that you might imagine having a Cybertruck, but it is really cool. But and as far as self-driving goes, it's hard for me to turn that on and sit back and trust that it's going to
Yeah.
slow down for that car or stop at that sign or make the right move on the freeway and everything. But I was in it just last week. I was approaching a right-hand turn. I had the right of way. There was no stop sign on the highway. I'm just going to take a right-hand turn off the highway. As I'm approaching that turn, it turns my signal on. It moves over to the right-hand turn lane. And just as I'm getting ready to reach the corner, a car coming from the other way takes a left directly in front of me. I myself would not have reacted in time. The Cybertruck slowed down to a near stop, let that car go by, and then I sped up and made the turn like nothing happened. I mean, it did it on its own. I if I would have been me, I might have locked up the brakes.
Wow.
So you never know. So
Yeah, it's the future. I mean, we can say what we want, and we don't like this guy, don't like that guy, this and the other thing. But the reality is, all of this, 25 years from now, we're not going to have control of our cars.
right, yeah,
We're going to hang on to the cars you have in the garage, because those are the only things that you're going to have that you're
right,
going to be able to control. Um, what how you drive it, what you do with it. Everything else is
yep,
going to have Blue Cruise and Super Cruise and this and
yep,
that. I
yep,
mean, there's too many cars out on the road. They got to do something.
yeah. No, it's good. I mean, decades and decades ago, when the automatic transmission came out, it's like, you know, I'm going to trust this car to shift itself. So no, as much as I like it, I still like to get in my old 69 Mustang, and I've got a couple of old trucks that are carbureted, and I like the feel of that too.
Well,
So,
let me know when you want to get rid of one of those trucks, man. I'm starting to look for a pickup truck again, man.
okay.
I
All
need a
right.
little, I need a little something, old guy car, something for my
That's
70s.
good. All right.
Kirby, it's good to catch up with you, man.
You
I
too,
spent
Vinny.
4 hours talking to you, pal.
Good. Always good. You take
I
care.
will have fun at the race. I will see you when you get back up here.
Sounds good. Take care.
All
Thanks,
right,
Vinny.
Kirby. Thanks a
Bye.
lot, man. Kirby Arnold joining us here from Indianapolis. The 500 is tomorrow. Go check it. Park yourself in front of the TV for an hour or two and stay off the streets, because, again, there's always different cars out there that you don't want to be driving around in. So do what you got to do. All right, listen. We went way long here, but I appreciate you sticking with us. Vinnie, what are you driving this week? I am driving the Toyota Grand Highlander, which is I love this thing, man. I was supposed to take it on a nice long trip this weekend, and unfortunately, I've had some stomach problems and have not been able to take the trip I was supposed to take this weekend. So I appreciate you listening to the show and checking us out. We'll get you, Vinny, up there on the internet about the Grand Highlander. And next week we'll be back with another edition of Drive Time. Hopefully, by the way, a quick note, hopefully we will have Michael back on Monday. As you probably know, if you listen to our weekday shows, Michael has been out sick for 2 weeks now. And hopefully we'll get him back on Monday. So make sure you tune in Monday morning at 10:10 to Mikey and Vinnie Take on the World, and we'll try to get you updated there too. Be nice to each other. Be safe out there driving. It's a beautiful weekend. The sun is shining. Enjoy yourself out there, and we will catch up with you on Monday morning at 10:10. If the Lord's willing and the creek don't rise, I'm New York Vinnie. Thanks so much for listening to our little show here, Drive Time Radio. See you on Monday. Take care. Bye-bye.